Hello everyone, it's Joe here from Draft FPL and welcome back to a weekly series helping you find some good value free agents and waiver pickups in Draft FPL. Okay, so today we are looking at game week 3. As always, if you enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, check out the Patreon in the link down below. We've got plenty more stuff to get your teeth into other than just the waiver picks. Let's get stuck into it. Okay then, so first up for game week 3 in defence, we are looking at Nedeljkovic of Aston Villa, available in 98% of draft leagues, and that information is powered by draftfc.co.uk. As always, they've got plenty of draft-based tools you can use to help you win your draft league. If you want 1 month completely free trial, no payment necessary, use code SNAKEDRAFT and there's a link down below in the description. Looking at Nedeljkovic specifically, Matty Cash pulled his hamstring in the last game week, and it looks like Nedeljkovic is going to be the one to take his spot. Unai Emery did say that he doesn't see Konsa playing right back. Really, Konsa looks more comfortable in the centre-back role, and Diego Carlos is pretty much not in Emery's thoughts at the moment, it seems. Plus, Nedeljkovic is pretty highly rated as well, so I do think it will be his role for the time being. The fixtures for Villa, as we'll see, are absolutely amazing. They're top of the fixture ticker, and they've got a really, really strong run. Leicester away this week, Everton at home, Wolves at home, Ipswich away is the next 4. So we've got a really good chance at some clean sheets out of these 4, especially the 2 home games in game week 4, game week 5. I think if he starts this week, which he almost certainly will, if you wait for that Everton at home fixture next week, he'll probably be gone from waivers in a lot of competitive leagues. So I would jump on him this week. Leicester away is not a bad fixture anyway. If you do need to play him, it's definitely one that you could comfortably start him in. And there's a decent chance at a clean sheet. Next up, we've got Wesley Fofana, available in 58% of leagues. Chelsea's fixtures are also really strong. Palace at home, Bournemouth away, West Ham away, Brighton at home in the next 4. So all decent fixtures. I will say I am absolutely not sold on the Chelsea defence whatsoever. I do think they've got serious issues, and I'm not convinced we're going to see many clean sheets from them at the moment. But what I will say is Maresca is a decent manager in my opinion, and I think as the season goes on they'll probably get stronger and figure things out a little bit more. So we might see some improvement as the season goes on, and in that case, if they are going to finish top 6, you would expect clean sheets in some of the strong home games at the very least. So if Fofana's going to be starting every game for the rest of the season, he probably is a good pickup, and the fact that he's available in 58% of leagues, he is a little bit undervalued at the moment, I would say, despite the fact that as it stands at the moment, I'm not convinced of Chelsea's solidity. But I think if you are looking for a long-term option, he's probably one of the best available. Next up, if you're looking in the 1-week punt territory, I like Rorslev for Brentford, available in 97% of leagues. He's almost certainly going to start at fullback. There's the only competition for him are Hickey and Henry, who are both injured. And Southampton at home is a really good fixture. Saints have kind of kept the ball quite well, but really struggled to create chances. They had a decent amount in the first game against Newcastle, but couldn't put any of them away. And against Forest, it was kind of the opposite problem, where they had loads of the ball, but just could not really fashion many opportunities. And I fancy Brentford to go a similar way. I think Brentford will be happy to let Saints have a lot of the ball, and they're just going to try and hit them on the break. And, that could be a recipe for a decent chance at a clean sheet for Brentford this week. One more 1-week punt. We've got Milenkovic, available in 98% of leagues. Wolves at home for Forest this week. It's far from a guaranteed clean sheet, but it's definitely a decent chance. Milenkovic also is a real threat from set pieces. He had an absolute glorious chance against Saints, absolute sitter that he did not manage to put in. I suspect if he'd scored, his traction this week would be a lot higher, but I do think there's a decent amount of threat from him. Wolves, little bit shaky in that area as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if Forest do get a little bit of joy from set pieces, and he is definitely one that they target. On to midfielders. There's only really one place to start, and that is Noni Madueke, available in 54% of leagues. Okay, we need to talk about him. So he got the hat-trick against Wolves. There's an absolute clamour to bring him in on the waivers, and I do get it. So the positives, obviously, are that the fixtures are really good. Palace at home, Bournemouth away, West Ham away, Brighton at home. He has just scored a hat-trick, which means he's almost certainly going to start at least the next few games. You know, it's very difficult to get dropped after scoring a hat-trick, but it doesn't mean he's not going to get dropped ever, right? That kind of grace period only lasts so long, and if he doesn't perform well in the next 2 games, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't start the West Ham game. I don't think it would last any longer than that if he's not performing. The hat-trick itself, I'm not convinced that Madueke is now going to be the next Cole Palmer, for instance. 3 goals from 0.54 XG. All 3 of the goals came from pretty much the exact same scenario, with an overload on the right hand side, Madueke cutting in and finishing. Wolves are terrible at defending that left back position, so I'm not convinced it's going to be repeated this week, where Madueke comes up against Mitchell at left back, who is a much better defender than Ait-Nouri, who would have been on that side, who really isn't a very good defender. So do I think it's repeatable? No. Do I think he's a good option still? Probably yes, but by no means, the amazing pick that I don't think he's going to be scoring week in, week out, I'll put it that way. But the fact that he is the fact that he is going to start at least this week makes him a good pick just for that. I still would have him in the 5th midfielder category. I don't think his numbers are going to suddenly explode, but I do think he is a decent pickup for this week. One kind of maneuver I do really like is to bring him in this week and see if you can get a high value trade for him, especially if he returns against Palace. You could end up getting a seriously good trade offer for Madueke after this game week if you do manage to get him in. And that I do think is a very good play, because I do think long term, do I think he's one of the best 2 wingers at the club? I genuinely have no idea. They've got so many options that I don't really want to bet my season on the fact that Madueke is going to make that position his own when they've got so many other good options as well. So yeah, I'm not going to rip my team up to get him. I will be putting in waiver requests for him, but good option, not great option for me. Next up, we've got João Felix, available in 100% of leagues, and a similar situation to Madueke. I think a lot of people will be asking me, and I can already see the comments being written, who should I waiver first, Madueke or João Felix? And it's really difficult. I suspect that long-term João Felix scores more points than Madueke over the season. But I think just the fact that we almost know for certain Madueke is going to start at the weekend, there's almost no doubt in my mind that he starts at the weekend. Whereas João Felix, we don't know that. So I think the smart play is to just back the player that is more likely to get more minutes. And I think at the moment that's Madueke. That probably will change at some point. But I'm not convinced how João Felix fits in, really, unless it's up front, which I don't really know suits him, especially if they sign Ivan Toney. It's just an absolute mess, really. I really struggled to put my finger on exactly where João Felix fits in, other than off the bench. So for me, it's Madueke above João Felix. I probably will go for him anyway, just as like an upside pick that if he is starting regularly, he could be a fantastic waiver. But yeah, as a midfielder as well, I'm just not convinced he's a great option. If he was a forward, he would be way more sought after, because of the scarcity of forwards. But as a mid, I think he's a good waiver pick for the upside, but not convinced. Next up, we got Morgan Rogers, available in 39% of leagues, and someone that has really, really impressed me over the first 2 game weeks. I was high on him in pre-season thanks to his kind of the amount of starts he was getting and the way he was playing. He's got some attacking returns. Then the first 2 game weeks of the season, no returns yet, but they have had some reasonably tough fixtures away to West Ham and then at home to Arsenal. No returns yet, but the returns are definitely coming for him. He's a really aggressive player. I really like the way he gets into the box, and I think that there are definitely points to come for him over this run. And honestly, I think I'd actually have him higher in my waivers maybe than Madueke or João Felix. I think he's that important. I really do think that Villa are going to score a decent amount of goals over this run, and I just can't see any way that Rodgers isn't involved. The only downside, I guess, is that after game week 4, the Champions League starts, and if he has really cemented his place in the team by then, we could see some rotation around the Champions League, because obviously Villa's first year in the Champions League, it is going to be really important to them. They are going to play a first choice 11 no matter who the opponent is in that Champions League stage, or whatever they're calling it these days. So I do think there is a chance. We don't really know how prone Rodgers will be to rotation. The likes of Leon Bailey, I think, is more at risk, because we know for sure that his minutes will need to be managed because of his injury history. So, yeah, I think Rodgers, he doesn't strike me as a player that looks like he's going to be injury prone, but to be honest, that doesn't really mean anything. So yeah, definitely someone I'm interested in over this run, and someone I'm going to be really fighting for on the waivers. In a similar vein, we've got John McGinn. I think there is a chance that Jacob Ramsey's kind of knocking at the door for his spot in the team, but McGinn is pretty important to the way that Villa play, and club captain as well. I think he is going to be a key part of this attack, and I don't really see him. I've kind of predicted him to drop out the team every game week for the last 3 years, and he just doesn't, because he is probably more important than I give him credit for. I think he will be on penalties as well, if they get one. A lot of people have been saying Watkins after Douglas Luiz has left, but I do think it will be John McGinn. So over this run, he could end up being a pretty valuable pick. Next up, I mentioned Brentford hitting Saints on the break earlier, and I don't think there'll be anyone better than Kevin Schade at doing that. Available in 93% of leagues. He didn't start the previous game against Liverpool for Brentford, but I think that's because they switched to their 5 at the back formation. Keane Lewis Potter came in and played at wing back, but Saints at home, I would expect them to revert to the 4-3-3, and I think it'll be Mbeumo, Wissa and Schade, and I think all 3 of those are really good picks. Against the Saints defence that hasn't looked bad because they keep so much of the ball, but they will concede big chances just by the nature of the way they play out from the back. They're going to get hit on the break. They're going to get pressed. I fancy Newcastle to have, I fancy Brentford to have a decent chance at some goals this week. Saints have signed Aaron Ramsdale, which I think will be a massive boon for them, because Alex McCarthy just cannot use his feet, and it really limits the way that they play. He's also not the best shot stopper either, whereas I think Ramsdale is better in both areas, so that will be a definite improvement. The problem is I don't think he'll be ready to start this game against Brentford, so I think it probably will be one more week of McCarthy before Ramsdale comes in, and I fancy the Brentford attack in this one. On to forwards then, and Strand Larsen, only available in 24% of leagues, but I thought I'd mention him because I do really like him. I think he's a really good pick, actually, and the fact that he's available in 24% is still pretty shocking to me. I think it won't be long before he's available in 5% or less, because the fixtures are really rough for Wolves. But I do think he's got a good thing going with Cunha. We saw a bit of their link up in the Chelsea game, and I just think the way they operate together, Cunha's really good with the ball at his feet. He's quick. He's good dribbler, good passer, good finisher. Whereas Strand Larsen's going to occupy defenders, be a bit of a fox in the box, and get on the end of chances. I think they're going to be a good combination. The fixture this week's actually not bad. Forest away. Newcastle at home's not bad either, to be honest, because their defence has been pretty poor. Villa away, Liverpool at home in 5 and 6 are both pretty rough. Although, again, Villa's defence has not exactly been impenetrable. So there's definitely a chance that he's got returns. But I just think if you've got a non-playing forward, or someone that's just a bit of a nightmare, then Strand Larsen's definitely a better pick than them. And one more option from the forwards, only available in 17% leagues, but I thought I'd mention him. Eddie Nketiah is looking like he's getting a move to Palace. I don't know for sure whether it'll be him or Mateta that's first choice. It definitely harms Mateta's appeal a little bit, even though I think probably Mateta will still be first choice. I'm not too worried about that, but it will impact his minutes in the long term, whether it's early substitutions or the fact that they probably may well play this split striker formation with Eze in behind that they played at the weekend, with Eduard and Mateta. Eddie and Mateta playing the split strikers with Eze behind might actually work quite well, but that does mean obviously there's a potential for less chances to fall Mateta's way, as I think he's got more tendency to drop deep than Nketiah, who's going to look to stretch teams and get in behind. So I think he could be a good pick, and again, if you've got a non-playing third forward, I'm sure Nketiah is a better punt than that. Okay, that wraps up my picks for this game week. It was quite a long one. We've got loads to get through, so thank you all for sticking with me if you made it this far. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, check out the Patreon in the link down below. Look at Draft FC if you fancy it, and 1 month free trial, you might as well give it a go. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.